Advaita Pancharatnam by D.B. Gangulli. Explanation by D.B. Gangulli. It is a work of Adi Shankara Bhagavad-pada, explained by Sri D.B. Gangulli. We have already seen 16 sessions we have seen. Today's is the 17th session. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Dr. Krishnamurti Shastri, Dambe Punacha, Karnataka, India. Benefit accruing from Vedanta Jnana. This is the explanation for the last shloka of Advaita Pancharatnam of 5 shlokas. Among the 5 shlokas, last shloka. Vedanta Jnana may be quite logically correct, but it may seem to many people that by such a jnana we may not get any benefit whatsoever in our empirical life. For the consolation of such people, this following verse is mentioned. Naham jato na pravruddho na nashto dehasyoktaha prakrutaha सर्वधर्मः कर्तृत्वादिः चिन्मयस्यास्ति नाहम् कारस्यैव ह्यात्मनो मे शिवोऽहम्. Meaning, there is nothing like my being born. न अहम जातः न प्रवृद्धः न नष्टः. There is nothing like my being born, growing and dying. देशस्योक्तः प्रकृताः सर्वधर्माः. All these qualities or characteristics of Prakriti or primordial matter which appear to be in me are in truth belonging to the body. Kartrutvadihi chinmayasya asti naham karasya eva. Kartrutva, bhoktrutva, etc. are belonging to ahamkara alone, I sense alone, and not to me. हि आत्मनो मे शिवः अहम्. आत्मनः न आत्मनः मे मम मे to me, who is, and to me who is Chinmaya, or the very essence of pure consciousness. I am of Shiva Swarupa alone. That is, Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva, etc. are belonging to Ahankara alone and not to me, who is Chinmaya, or of the very essence of pure consciousness. I am of Shiva Swarupa alone. Commentary. Those who ask the question, what is the benefit accruing from Vedanta Jnana, should first deliberate upon the question as to what they have anticipated or assumed to happen to them from such a jnana. Those who hanker after food and clothes, wealth, to live in style, etc., in other words, being too materialistic and self-centered, should never think that even if they do not pursue any vocation fit to obtain such material benefits, they would get them all by means of this Vedanta Jnana. As mentioned or narrated in a mythological anecdote, one Satrajit possessed a magic jewel called Shamantakamani, and it was stated that whenever he worshipped that jewel, merely as a result of that, about 8 big ingots of gold were yielded by it. This Vedanta Jnana does not yield any such material benefits or profits. Even so, seen from another viewpoint, we can very well say that Vedanta Jnana is truly like a kind of Chintamani or magic jewel alone. For all the anartha or miseries or life's problems which are confronted by those people who have not attained this jnana are removed as if by magic as a result of this jnana. The common people entertain a deep seated belief of the type: I am born in this world, I grow up, I died in my previous birth, and now I am again born. In future too, after this span of life is exhausted, I will again die. As a result of this belief, they are experiencing the sorrow in this manner. In the manner, I am having the grief that is associated with birth. I am also having the grief associated with growing up, and eventually I am having the unavoidable greatest misery that is there in death. They will be searching for various devices or methods of avoiding these miseries after thinking about problems like the painful birth of a child after being in the form of a fetus in the womb of a woman and eventually emerging from a reprehensible part of her body, the grief stricken difficult task of growth of that body by enhancing or boosting the energies of the body, the senses, the mind, and the intellect, as also preserving all of them, and dreaded an end called death, which is the culmination of the process of sapping or siphoning out of all those energies and of emaciation. When their devices succeed, they get elated, and when they fail, they despair and get dejected. There are some people belonging to this type. There are some others who believe that these miseries are part and parcel of our destiny, and as such, we are helpless and cannot avoid them. There are also a few idiots who deride and denounce Ishvara, the Lord great Creator, saying, why did God send me to this miserable human birth? Lastly, there are quite a number of indiscreet people who think let there be some defects, but because many other good qualities exist in human birth, we are ourselves fortunate, and who allow their mind to be whisked away by sensuous enjoyments and pleasures, which are like drops of ambrosia mixed with poison to be found within this ephemeral human existence. They are devoid of any forethought and behave fanatically as they like. In any case, there is no one in this universe who does not realize that he has these aspects like birth, growth, and death. All these are miseries in the ultimate analysis, is it not? To all such people, the genuine and profound benefit that accrues from the intuitive knowledge of the spiritual science of Vedanta is they attain a strong, unshakable conviction that their Atman of the essential, eternal nature of pure being consciousness, bliss, is never in the past, at present, or in the future affected or afflicted by any of these features of birth, growth, and death. All these primordial characteristics belong to the body. These three characteristics of birth, growth, and death, as described previously, are all seen in the physical body alone and not in Atman. We have never witnessed any of these following: our being born, our growing, or our dying. All the transactions, like witnessing others getting born, growing, and dying, are also pertaining to merely the bodies being born or coming into existence, growing or dying, or going out of existence only. Even the beliefs that others are observing our birth, growth, and death are also similar to this phenomenon only. Therefore, all these characteristics really belong to the physical bodies and not to ourselves. Objection: the body is also ours only. Therefore, its birth, growth, and death are also belong to us alone. Is it not? Consolation: if we recollect that what has been deliberated upon previously, then there is no scope whatsoever for this objection. For the statement that a particular relationship exists between the body and ourselves cannot at all be determined beyond doubt on the strength or support of any kind of anubhava or intuitive experience. Apart from this, if we have one singular body, we obtain hundreds of bodies in so many dreams. In which of these bodies can we have or show identification saying this alone is mine? Even if we wish to assume that because of the reason that the dream bodies are different, the waking body, which is always existing singularly, is itself ours. For that assumption too, there is no scope whatsoever. For as we have previously established, because there does not exist any difference or distinction between a dream and the waking, the question as to which exactly is the waking body cannot itself be determined with certainty. Therefore, it becomes established from all these deliberations that the characteristics like getting born, growing, and dying manifest only in bodies of mere appearance, and that there does not exist any relationship whatsoever between that appearance of a body and ourselves. Hence, it evolves that all the characteristics caused by primordial nature belong to the body alone. Prakriti means ajnana swabhava or essential nature of ignorance. This alone is previously called Maya. All these different mutations that we have misconceived due to ajnana in ourselves belong to this Mayic body alone and not that they exist really. Kartrutva, Bhoktritva, etc. are the qualities of Ahamkara and not those of Atman. What is Kartrutva? Doership. Bhoktritva, the beneficiary, who is getting the benefit of the works done. These two, beneficiarship and doership, are the qualities of Ahamkara, I sense, and not those of Atman or the soul. Saying that there does not exist any relationship whatsoever between the body and ourselves, now the objection is, does not seem to be correct. For between the body and ourselves there exists a relationship of the type of a possession and its lordship or ownership. To wit, the body belongs to us and we are its lords, owners. We are utilize the body, the senses, etc., and perform actions or karma and then enjoy their resultant fruits. For the purpose of enjoying the fruits of actions performed previously in earlier births only, this body has been endowed to us. In the future, too, in this manner, the other bodies in other births may come to us. Is it not? Consolation. All these concepts, like we have instruments of knowledge or action like the body, the senses, and the mind. Using these equipments or tools, so to say, we perform various actions and as a result we acquire punyas or religious merit and papa or religious demerits. From them we beget future births are real indeed from the Vyavaharika Drishti, but that is in the empirical view. But what we are following now is the Paramarthika Drishti, that is the eternal view. When we observe from this viewpoint, just like the Jagat or the world of duality, the body which exists within it also is Mayik. Because of the reason, Mayik means illusionary. Because of the reason that in states like deep sleep, etc., we do not at all have any body or any relationship whatsoever with it. We cannot possibly assert that having some relationship with the body is our very essential nature. If we further observe from this very viewpoint, we do not actually have kartrutva or agentship of action. For only when we are associated with ahankara or ego, we have the cognition of the type I am doing this action, a hankering after an object, for that purpose having a sankalpa or will, volition, nischaya or decision, karma or action, etc. All these are dependent or they rely upon ahamkara, I sense or ego, and not that they are associated with or conjoined with our swarupa, pure being consciousness. Because in deep sleep and such other states, we do not at all have any relationship with the ahamkara to say that there does not exist kartrutva also is established on the strength of anubhava or intuitive experience. Objection. In that case, it amounts to saying that for the action that we perform, we are not responsible or performing our actions, earning the resultant merits and demerits, and enjoying their fruits. None of these exists. Why all this? It will amount to saying that neither the mukti or liberation that has to accrue from the study or pursuit of Vedantic science, nor the bandha or bondage that has to be got rid of by means of this liberation exists at all. Are all these things desirable or congenial to you, Vedantins? Consolation. Even this objection has arisen because a distinction between the Vyavaharika and Paramarthika Drishtis has not been realized or reckoned. From the Vyavaharika Drishti, because of the reason that we have a relationship with the Ahankara, the Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva, etc., which are associated with that Ahankara, do appear in us. If we observe from this empirical viewpoint, Vyavaharika Drishti, it is not possible to assert that concepts like dharma or religious righteousness and its opposite of adharma do not exist at all. In fact, assuming this viewpoint alone, in our Shastras, vidhis or religious injunctions and nishedhas or religious prohibitions have been enjoined. From this viewpoint, none of the concepts like punya, papa, swarga or heaven, naraka or hell is false. But if you observe intuitively from the paramarthika drishti, that's a eternal view, we do not at all have any relationship with ahamkara, nor in us independently there exists any kartrutva whatsoever. While we cut a tree with an axe, the latter, without being where it is moving up and down in the same way, the hand of the cutter too is changing its positions. But we cannot say that just like the axe of the illustration, we are using ahamkara through kartrutva. For when performing any action, although there are certain changes or mutation in ahankara, there are no changes whatsoever taking place in our swarupa. In truth, we are the witnessing principle or consciousness, for that is, we are objectifying both the ahankara and its mutations. Therefore, the kartrutva and bhoktrutva of ahankara are superimposed upon or misconceived in us owing to bhranti or delusion, and not that they really exist in our essential nature of pure being consciousness bliss. Now it becomes quite evident or clear for the empirical transactions of bandha and moksha also. As a result of the relationship brought about by avidya between ahankara and us, that is our essential nature, alone the karma bandha or bondage to actions of the form or nature of kriya, action, karaka, means of action, and phala, result or fruit, as well as dvaita jnana bandha or bondage to the knowledge of duality of the form of jnatru, knower, jnana, knowledge, and jneya, the object known. Both these triads of bondage have clung to us. Therefore, the Vedantic teaching that one should get rid of ajnana through the attainment of jnana by means of the Vedantic shravana or listening intuitively to the scriptural Upanishadic texts, manana or intuitive ratiocination and on these Upanishadic teachings, etc., and thereby the bondage too has to be got rid of, is also justified from the Vyavaharika Drishti, empirical view. But when observed intuitively from the Paramarthika Drishti, eternal view, because we do not have any relationship whatsoever with the Ahankara, our Swarupa does not have or is not tainted by either bandha or moksha in the least. Hence, even these distinctions of bandha sadhaka or practitioner, sadhakat sadhana or spiritual practice, moksha, etc., do not at all exist from the paramarthika drishti, eternal view. And this alone is the parama siddhants or the ultimate spiritual teaching of Vedanta. And this profound teaching is not at all undesirable for anyone, for in the Paramarthika Drishti or eternal view, nothing of these ishta or desirable objects or fruits, anishta or undesirable fruit, etc., exist in the least, and Paramatman alone exists exclusively, non duality in his supreme glory. Objection: if you say that kartrutva and bhoktrutva which exist in ahankara are in fact superimposed upon Atman, does it not amount to saying that ahankara is conscious or sentient? Consolation. If you observe analytically, because Atman is Nitya Mukta in him, there can never exist any Kartrutva at all. Similarly, because it is Nitya Jada or eternally gross, insentient, Ahankara too does not have any Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva, etc. at all. Even so, in the Vyavaharika Drishti or empirical view, when the Kartrutva appears because there are changes only in Ahankara, while in Atman there are no changes whatsoever, from the Sthula Drishti or gross viewpoint, Ahankara itself is called here, in this context, Kartru. That is all. That is Chidabhasa, actually. The image of the uh, Atman is seen in the Ahankara, like a mirror image. So, there it appears, the Kartrutva. Objection. Is it not true that Atman is traversing from one state to another while he goes to deep sleep? Mm. He is giving up ahankara, kartrutva, etc. And while coming back to waking, he is taking up or assuming them. To that extent, then, should you not accept kartrutva in him? Consolation. Atman neither goes or travels anywhere, nor come to any state or region. Neither does he grasp anything nor give up anything. Just as in the sky or empty space, even though clouds come and go, the space unto itself remains pure and unpolluted. In the same way, although Ahamkara, Kartutva, etc. appear and spread out or proliferate in Atman owing to his Maya, he remains extremely pure and undefiled in his Chaitanya Swarupa without undergoing any change whatsoever. We have repeatedly affirmed that neither the avasthas nor the phenomena like ahankara, kartrutva, etc., appearing within those states of consciousness are absolutely real. That is, in the ultimate analysis, observed from the intuitive experience standpoint. If we remember and keep this paramount and profound truth looming large before our mind or intellect, then no superimposition or delusion of the type of kartrutva, bhoktrutva, etc., whatsoever appear to be real in Atman. Hence, I am Shiva. Thus, if we properly logically adapt the relevance or similarity among the three illustrations of the rope snake, the dream, and the reflection in the mirror, and associating it with Atman, if you observe from the intuitive experience viewpoint, then it becomes very clear that in us there is no jivatva or that jagat proportionate to the degree of steadfastness of this cognition, the intuitive experience or consciousness of the type I am verily Paramashiva alone, who is Nitya Shuddha, eternally pure, Paripurna, totally consummate, full, Advitiya, non dual, Satchidananda Swarupa, of the very essence of pure being or existence, pure knowledge or consciousness, pure happiness or bliss, becomes rooted in us. Those who have the backing or strength of this intuitive experience will get rid of fear and will be buoyant with courage, will avoid or escape from unrestrained licentious behavior, but on the other hand, they will adopt naturally a religiously righteous behavior. They will get rid of indiscrimination and will double their discrimination or discretion in a manner of speaking. A sense of injustice, injury, theft, etc., will disappear into thin air, and instead sterling qualities like sense of justice, compassion, and interest in the welfare of all the people and creatures will get embedded in his heart. Idleness or lethargy will give way to a steady habit of working or toiling for others' benefit or help. Nowhere grief is noticed, but wherever they divert their attention, they will witness the sport, Leela of Parabrahman, who is Satya Jnana Ananda Swarupa. Therefore, this benign, auspicious jnana to the effect that I am verily Shiva should necessarily be attained by everyone. Even if it does not accrue immediately, at least we must attempt to acquire the proper qualification for that benign self knowledge. Om Tat Sat. So, this ends Advaita Pancharatnam of Adi Shankara Bhagavad. Its explanation by Sri D.B. Gangulli. So, this is the third book in the English series we have been seeing. Next, we will continue fourth book in the next session. Hare Rama. Thank you, one and all.